Welcome back to Problem Solver Politics. I'm your host, Cardinellis, with Cody the Oracle.
Hey, everybody.
And today we're going to be talking about a New York Times article that was retweeted by Andrew Yang asking if Joe Biden has lost the internet, analyzing his internet presence, and also what that actually has to do with anything in him winning and or losing and or everything else we're about to talk about. Cody, tell us what is going on.
All right. So, yeah, as you're pointing out, just started this morning. I was going through trying to get ready to do another video talking about Andrew Yang and some of the work he was doing when I noticed that he had actually, it appears, recommended this article to us. And at first, I didn't understand what it was exactly. It's not bad talking about it, but there's some actually really good points in here I want to get into. And I thought it'd be fun to talk about kind of how much it does matter. I did think it was interesting because one thing that I will say, I thought I was critical of how Andrew Yang endorsed Joe Biden. I thought he should have stood by it more. But now I actually kind of like how he's maintained that almost like quasi-endorsement streak to the point of he's been the whole time. He's not Bernie Sanders is like, we got to vote for Joe. Go vote Joe. Andrew Yang is like, look, if you want to beat Trump, we got to vote for him. I'm not going to tell anyone they have to vote for him. And we're seeing, I don't know. I just thought that was interesting. Here's been rating a little bit critical. You could say it's because he actually wants him to win. So he's like, I'm not just going to all of a sudden pretend Joe Biden's awesome because he isn't, but maybe he's the best bet. Anyway, that bit aside, I thought it'd be interesting to go through here, take a look at some of the things the Kevin Roos, the author of this, brings up, and take a look at how much of this is actually true and how much of this isn't. So here is the article. Oh, let me resize that for you guys. Talking about, is Joe Biden losing the internet, and does that matter? I think the does that matter is the real question here. Losing the internet's a weird way of putting it, but yeah, he's not popular with the kids online. He's not in the memes, something that they point out. Now, a couple things I want to touch over here is just some of the initial what's I'm looking for? The initial shots fired at Joe Biden. We'll take a look at some of that stuff and then get into it. Because they mentioned that Joe Biden has only 32,000 subscribers on the influential video platform YouTube. A pittance compared with some of his rivals in the Democratic primary race. And roughly, second time I've read pittance in an article the last few days. And roughly 300,000 fewer than President Trump. The videos that Mr. Biden posts these days mostly repurpose campaign ads and TV-style interviews filmed from the makeshift studio in his basement, rarely crack 10,000 views, and the virtual crickets that group many of his appearances have become a source of worry for some Democrats who see his sluggish performance online as a bad omen for his electoral chances in November. This is a quote from a commenter in one of his videos. This video is 2 days old and it's sitting at 20,000 views, one commenter wrote. This is a guy who's supposed to beat Trump. I definitely think this, because this brings me to one of my favorite little question of the modern election. Is Twitter real life? But anyway, don't want to get into that. I want to run through the last few things because they bring up the subscriber count on YouTube. So I wanted to go through, first of all, we're going to really quickly burn through how many subscribers your average presidential Democratic candidate has on YouTube and how Joe Biden racks up against just a few, not all of them. And then I also want to take a look at Twitter, which is another influential platform. Then we'll get into some more stuff here. So first thing, we look at him on YouTube, and I will say 35,000 subscribers from the guy who is... It's not like he's just the odds-on favorite. He's not he is the Democratic nominee for president at the moment. He was the vice president for 8 years. And I guess Twitter has been, YouTube videos are being posted since then, but just interesting to see that. So we'll go through and look at our boy Andrew Yang, 162,000 subscribers on YouTube.
Wow.
Very nice. Go to Elizabeth Warren. This was weird. 17.3. But again, I don't think Elizabeth Warren's trying to grow her YouTube. They're not trying to be YouTubers.
Yeah.
And then we get to Bernie Sanders, who, by the way, is the best at this YouTube stuff from any of the Democrats running for president. Bernie Sanders has almost 400,000 subscribers. And he actually does very well-produced live streams that kind of make sense in the vein of what you expect to see on a live stream on the internet. He did a live stream interview with Cardi B on Instagram. They put it on YouTube with Instagram Live. You get it. He knows what he's doing. And he actually raises some pretty decent money doing these things as well. But then the last thing I want to touch is because, like I said, ultimately, I feel like every 5 months we have to ask the question in politics, is Twitter real life? I can't tell. Like, Twitter candidates always lose.
Or is it a precursor or some kind of predictor, a measurable quantifier that can predict success in the box office?
Well, it's like if you were to ask Twitter, Labour was going to win the UK elections that happened just a few months ago, and they didn't.
Yeah.
If you were to ask Twitter, Hillary Clinton definitely going to win 2016, and she did. You're going to ask Twitter, Bernie Sanders, no way he would have lost Joe Biden. Well, he did.
Yeah.
But I do want to point out, on the line of that, Joe Biden does have 5 million followers roughly on Twitter, and he gained, I want to say, 500, a little under 500,000 of those in March of 2020, which is, to me, is like, Who is waking up March of 2020? You know what's funny? I might have followed Joe Biden in that span because I'll admit there's a lot of times. Well, a lot of times I'll see an account go by. I'm like, I'm not following them. That's weird. But still, it's just funny to me. So many people are like, oh, this Joe Biden guy. Maybe
now I actually have to take him seriously.
Yeah,
you know?
he's worth looking at.
Because I don't follow Mike Pence, so I think as a VP there was less of a reason to follow him on Twitter than as a candidate. To me, it's more interesting to follow a candidate on Twitter than it would be necessarily an elected official.
But he's been a candidate for like, if you're just finding out Joe Biden's running for president, and I guess that's a good, because seriously, look at that, 493,000, holy cow, couldn't say followers in 30 days. Or, yeah, 30. That's really interesting to me. I don't know. I mean, sometimes it happens, it's just one of those things. Something in the election, I've always thought with Joe Biden too. It's like, who's just now being like, this Joe Biden guy? I really like this Joe Biden guy. I didn't know what he was all about this whole time. And people are like, Joe Biden says weird, goofy stuff. It's like, you think Joe Biden says weird, goofy stuff, and you find a treasure trove of he said like 30 years of Joe Biden doing this stuff. I don't know. It's just a little aside to me. But anyway, so that's now getting out some of the numbers out of the way, because it's one thing to just say Joe Biden doesn't do well on the internet. As someone who's on the internet a lot, I would say, you know what, that sounds about right. I don't really think of Joe Biden very much, but it's another thing to kind of look at. Well, he's not a YouTuber. Okay, that makes sense. Like 5 million followers on Twitter is no joke, man. I mean, he was a world leader. I mean, like the actual brand and profile of Joe Biden is really high. I don't understand 100%, but then that leads me to the only thing that I think really matters here. There's one thing I do think Joe Biden, I don't think Joe Biden has any issue getting attention. You know, he's the Democratic nominee for president. He's endorsed by everybody, and he was vice president for 8 years. But do you think fundraising would be that's where I think he's not going to be able to do what Bernie Sanders did and raise $34 million, basically mostly through, I don't want to say Twitter, but you know what I mean? Like mostly through ActBlue links and a lot of, there was no wine cave dinners with Bernie Sanders, right? So I don't know. Yeah. I just think that's going through all the stuff. Okay, he depending on the profile, the social media thing, there is some, Joe Biden isn't a nobody on the internet, but this is where he's money.
I oftentimes try and think what I would do if I were a campaign manager or if I were influential somehow in a campaign of Joe Biden in this situation. And I got to tell you, I have no idea what kind of advice I would give, because every single time Joe Biden has gone on anything modern, any kind of coronavirus live stream from his house, any kind of social media driven interview, it has been an absolute disaster. Like it's been unwatchably boring, being super cringy, and or has given the opposition some serious ammunition where you think this has done more damage than good. There was a reason why for the whole first 6 months of his campaign, he basically stayed out of the limelight, you know, as like this de facto front runner that everybody was just aware of, but never saw on television, never saw on YouTube, never saw on Twitter. And it almost seemed like the strategy of his campaign managers was, look, just let the pawns on the chessboard fight first. You sit back here as this de facto king. And even if you atrophy, you will slide into home still just barely above them in the numbers, right? And that basically worked. It worked to get him the nomination. In reality, it was actually the Clyburn endorsement that won him the nomination, and his success in South Carolina and Super Tuesday.
Real politics. So what do you think? Actual politics, like local politicians endorsing you.
So I got to tell you, man, the best predictor of future success we know is actually past performance. And if Joe Biden's game is just staying silent and hoping that there's enough just anti-Trump hatred that people will vote for you as the solution against Trump, I don't see an advantage for him trying to come across all of a sudden as something he's not, because you'll remember he got lampooned really hard, and I really didn't like his first campaign ad. I was actually more of a Joe Biden fan before he actually started running. His first campaign ad you got to watch it. He comes out the gate swinging as though he's like an AOC, Trump's a white supremacist, and his followers are deplorable enablers. And the thing that was strange to me was I thought, this isn't really Joe Biden. I connected with Joe Biden when he was on that late night show, and he kind of broke down into tears a little bit when he talked about having heard one of his friends that was in the army with his son who had died. And there was a period of there for 18 months preceding his candidacy in which he came across as just very human, very likable retail politician. You could almost forget what he participated in the Obama administration as somebody that didn't like that administration, and actually kind of like him for a while there. And that was because he was very good at that retail politics, not trying to be this avant-garde internet progressive. And he doesn't seem to adapt well to it in terms of rhetoric in campaign ads. And he doesn't seem to actually adopt well to the technology at all. You saw him like batting away the person trying to hand him notes in that one live stream of his, not realizing it was a wide angle camera, a wide angle lens, and everybody could see what he was doing. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's really bad. Just yesterday, he called COVID-19 COVID-9 on a live stream.
Shorthand. That's what we call it on the internet. Maybe Joe Biden's more online than we thought.
Yeah, maybe he's doing 4D live stream chess, right? But anyway, I don't know. I don't think really super adapting. He needs surrogates to do this, is actually what I should be saying. Just like Bernie had, what was her name? The African-American senator that would go out and she was always saying, "Hello, somebody." Remember Nina Turner?
I believe so.
Yeah, I think it was Nina Turner.
I'm not sure, but it definitely.
I'm forgetting her name, but man, she would give awesome barn burner speeches, and she was. I would almost rather watch her than him. You know what I'm saying? So Biden needs to get those surrogates, man. He needs to get those surrogates and get them out there and get some super online personalities that are willing to stand for him. And they're out there. There's enough just DNC stands in Hollywood.
Barack Obama.
Yeah.
Joe Biden's entire campaign is, wow, it looks like Joe Biden's going to lose. And then Barack Obama picks up a phone and then, he dropped out. I mean, didn't even think he was going to lose, but seriously, look into Joe. This isn't even like hidden. Barack Obama was on the phone.
Barack Obama's the rich daddy.
He was on the phone with Bernie Sanders for like 4 hours over the few days before Bernie Sanders dropped out and endorsed Joe Biden. And then the day after he endorses Joe Biden, Barack Obama just coincidentally endorses Joe Biden as well. I mean, it was now that Barack had gotten the field cleared for little Joe, he could finally come in and endorse him himself. I don't know. I just think, to your point though, I gotta admit, I've never been able to find this mythical Joe Biden ad you're talking about. But one thing I do know with Joe Biden
is the one where he announced his candidacy. It's easy to find.
Anyway, one thing with Joe Biden is he does make it onto the internet, and clips of him do go viral. Unfortunately, and I'm serious, part of him not being able to campaign in general, he is good at, like, people who call him a retail politician, right? It's one of the things he's good at in politics, but it's also important to remember when Joe Biden was out in the world interacting with people, we were getting, this is one of my favorites when he challenged this guy to a push-up contest and called him fat, called him a liar.
Yeah.
One of my favorites, too, is when the guy said that he was hearing stuff on the news, and Joe Biden said, "You are not hearing that stuff on the news." Like, excuse me? I know what I'm hearing. Like, you could say it's true or not, but don't tell me it's not being said. I'm hearing it being said. So we have that. And then one of my favorite moments, and I've been trying to find a full clip of it, but it was when Joe Biden threatened to slap, I think it was a construction worker over a disagreement about, I think it was gun control, stuff like that. After saying that he was full of shit. That was great. Sorry, normally I don't like to swear, but I'm just quoting Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden, okay? I'm just quoting the president. That's the kind of language he tells me he's all right to use. But I love that. Don't tell me that, pal, or I'm going to slap you in the face. That's a quote from Joe Biden. So stuff like that doesn't make it on the internet. But the thing is, Joe Biden, while he is confrontational in person, it's actually really good when he's very confrontational in person. It's also something that he doesn't have this, like, I think the best way to sum it up is Joe Biden is never going to make a delete your account tweet like Hillary Clinton in 2016, right? Yeah. Like, Joe Biden is not going to get into, like, I don't think protracted Twitter beefs with Donald Trump. It's not slamming Trump with a good tweet. Doesn't seem like Joe Biden's game. I'm sure his account has tweeted bad things about Donald Trump all the time, but I'm saying is this, like, petty beefing, like the kind of stuff that gets people to, like, oh, that's funny and laughing at it. It's not what Joe Biden is. It's not what he does. He'll threaten to slap somebody in the face in front of cameras, but he's not going to go on Twitter and make snarky comments about President Trump. Like, maybe his interns or staff will, but it isn't necessarily Joe Biden's main strength. So it is going to be interesting to see, because there's one, we talked about just in general, kind of some funny stuff, but there is something here that's important to keep in mind, that there is a reality to this. This was an article from, I think it's Brian Schwartz, but these little tweets and apps actually is pretty good for what I'm trying to get to. Is what he's mentioning is that Democratic Party bundlers are struggling to find time to prioritize raising money for Biden as they look to overcome hurdles from COVID-19. From dealing with layoffs to employees in the hospital, many bundlers aren't focusing on helping Biden. A couple things to point out. One, the rich people normally just kind of have like a number in their mind. They have $5 million to just kind of blow this campaign. That's my business is closing, right? There's that. But the other end is, one thing Joe Biden never had success with. His fundraising was never insanely high. He was essentially fundraising maybe 15% ahead of Andrew Yang.
He was in debt.
Well, he was losing money too by spending
he was in debt.
There was never this massive network of fund, like Bernie Sanders. I mean, Bernie Sanders famously rejected a lot of these traditional bundler methods that Joe Biden's finding up or drying out. Now, we've seen it's possible to fundraise for a campaign very well. I mean, Andrew Yang wasn't getting these big bundlers coming together with a bunch of his money either. It was mostly solid small donations. You can leverage the internet to get a lot of small donations. I mean, Bernie Sanders raised how much? I think it was like $30-something million in a quarter off largely ActBlue links. I mean, that was a lot of money came from. Joe Biden's never been able to do that. And now he has to learn basically overnight in situations where, yeah, he's not really popular on a lot of these platforms. And one other thing I want to touch on, it's the last little thing going back to the original op-ed, which, by the way, Andrew Yang retweeted this. Retweets do equal endorsements. I'm just kidding. But what I thought was funny, though, is he brings up a good point here. And that is that, not that progressives only recently started competing. Progressives have been on YouTube for a while. But the idea that the kind of active, fun, the kind of content that goes well on YouTube, right? That kind of left progressive base. They're making videos like 17 minutes of Joe's melting brain. They're not making, let's go vote for Joe Biden video. I mean, they're not making a Joe Biden's going to go fight for us on X and Y videos. And then you also filter that in what they mentioned. Famously, Joe Rogan just said, like, you know what? God, if it's between Biden and Trump, I guess I have to vote Trump. I mean, there definitely is certain social media spheres that are like, yeah, dude, Joe Biden is not right or left. Joe Biden is not our guy. Now, the thing is, in general, those have proven to be wrong in elections. Maybe this means Joe Biden will win, but I think where there's a little bit more of just kind of LOL, Joe Biden's old kind of jokes is the fact that, if traditional fundraising dries up, it isn't that your campaign has to end. You can pivot to online sources. We've seen it. I saw, oh my God, I don't have any pictures, but I remember there's people basically selling photos of themselves in exchange for campaign endorsements to Bernie Sanders and Andrew Yang. My largest point being was there's creative ways to get a grassroots effort of like very engaged online people to use online methods to fundraise for you. That's real. Joe Biden has access to none of it. None of it. Nobody's falling over themselves to take naked pictures of themselves to get Joe Biden money. No, I'm telling you, people did that for Bernie Sanders. They did that for Andrew Yang. Look it up. Nobody's going to do that for Joe Biden. And I think, while it's, again, a goofy anecdote, it shows that I don't know where he turns for money aside from, you know what? You know what he has hope for again? Hopefully Barack Obama can pick up his phone and make a few calls.
Dude, Barack Obama.
Other than that, I don't know what he's going to do.
There's definitely this relationship building. A perceived relationship building of daddy, can you call some of your friends? Yeah. Like he's kind of behaving like a trust fund kid off of the popularity of Daddy Obama. You know what I'm saying?
And 30 years his elder.
He wants the popularity that daddy's got, and he wants the influence and power and the position that daddy's got. But at the end of the day, he got into the family business because daddy put him into the family business, and all the workers are like, the boss's son is here. And even though the bosses have retired, we really know who's in charge. But the boss called out of retirement and says that we have to respect his son. So fine. Yes, Mr. Biden. You know what I'm saying? It's literally like the original owner of the corporation retired, and the son that maybe didn't work for it or didn't deserve it or just didn't have the respect of the clientele or the other people have just kind of accepted him as a de facto figurehead in the absence of the real guy. You know, it's just, that is the feeling that I'm getting of the Biden candidacy. It's like the son that took over the $1 million family business, and everybody knows that he's not really in charge. I don't know how to put it other than that.
It does. I mean, I'll wrap it up with my last one thing I thought was very funny. Actually, two things. One, just again, I mean, this isn't necessarily proof to say, but yeah, this was going on. This one I thought was really funny. I have someone here saying that they raised over $3,000 selling nudes for Bernie Sanders.
No.
On Reddit.
Who was this?
So that's really funny. I thought it was a nanarchist. Oh my god, I can't believe I just said those words out loud. But yeah, somebody did that.
A nanarchist? What's that?
Somebody asked. They said, "Were they nudes of you? Did Bernie thank you? How much do you want for?"
Oh, were they nudes of Bernie? Were they nudes of Bernie?
They were nudes. Bernie did not thank me, but he's a very busy man, so no hard feelings. I don't want to violate your dad's privacy, and I'm not a fan of them. No, he's not a New York Knicks fan. But I just thought that was, again, no one's doing that for Joe Biden. I'm sorry, no one's doing that for Joe Biden. So.
I don't know if that's a smear upon your candidacy or an awesome badge of honor that you got people willing to sell nudes on your behalf.
I'll tell you what, that is definitely a more. That's closer to the future of political fundraising than whatever the hell Joe Biden does online. Unfortunately, is what I think it is.
That's funny, man. That's funny. So anyway, let us know what you guys think. Please, in the comments below, tell us if you've had any experiences that led you to believe otherwise. And also, I want to know if my analogy of Daddy Obama and rich son Biden actually works for you, if it resonates. So please, let's continue the conversation in the comments below. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at PSP Radio 1 and join the channel. It's only $5 a month. Really inexpensive way to make sure that these videos keep coming to you free of charge. This is Problem Solver Politics. We'll see you guys in the next video.